Okay, so this story that I'm going to tell you next is written by a guy named Upton Sinclair. Upton Sinclair was a muckraker. He's actually the most famous muckraker. He's pretty much the only one you have to know by name for the LEAP test, okay? So, Upton Sinclair was really concerned about the meat packing industry in Chicago because it was making people sick when they would eat the meat. So he decided to do some investigation, to dig up some dirt, right? To muckrake. So he goes to Chicago and he interviews a bunch of people. He goes to the factories where they disassemble the animals, and he writes notes and he investigates. And then he was going to at first go ahead and do this stuff in the newspaper and write newspaper articles with it, but he decided to go with the format of a novel. So he used all this stuff that he had learned to write a fiction novel about some Italian immigrants that moved to Chicago, and they're in the middle of this meatpacking facility. So even though the novel's fiction, the specifics of the meatpacking industry of Chicago around the turn of the century were very true, okay? So they had a gigantic building, okay? Now, the setup I'm about to show you is not the only one in the building. There's like 40 of these in this one massive pig factory. They had a big stockyard outside, okay, over here, where they would fatten the pigs up. And when it's time to slaughter them, when they've been selected for that day, they would move through a cattle chute, okay? Even though they're pigs, it's called a cattle chute. I guess you can call it a pig chute, whatever. So the piggies would come up here. Let's draw a little piggy here, okay? All right, so we've got a little piggy. Okay, he's got his cute little ears and his curly cute tail, okay? All right, little piggy is driven through here with a bunch of other pigs. So just imagine a line of pigs coming up. And there's a ramp, and the ramp has sides on it. It's probably not that steep, but anyway, that would be quite a climb for some pigs. So when little piggy got to the top of the ramp, okay, let's draw a second little piggy. Okay, that's all right. Then there was this guy, and he was just standing there, and his job was to take a hook that's hanging from a chain that's also hooked to another chain that runs the whole length of this operation. So these are 4 giant wheels hooked to the chain that just constantly move this chain in a very slow motion with hanging hooks. So he would pick up a hook, and with all of his might, he would hook the pig in the back butt cheek, and he would pull it like a big old fish, okay? He's foul hooking it. So little piggy goes up in the air, and he's going for a ride, okay? Piggy's going for a ride, and it's not pleasant. He's got a big old shark hook in his butt cheek, and he's upside down and being drug away. So I'm sure they were squealing like pigs. Anyway, so they're going forward, and you have now this drop off where the chain is carrying all the pigs down, okay? Each guy on each platform has a different job. So the first guy had a big old knife. His job is going to be to slit the throats of the pigs. And whenever he does, where's my red marker? I have no red marker. We'll use blue for blood, whatever. When he does do that, the blood from Mr. Piggy sprinkles down all over these other guys too, just falls as the pig goes down. Now the next guy, they're going to have kind of a vat right here of steaming hot water. So the next guy is going to take the pig, okay, and he's going to maneuver the pig and drop him in this vat of boiling water for a few seconds. And the chain's still moving, right? So as the chain moves down, it slowly drags the pig out. The pig's still alive at this point when it's being boiled, okay? The purpose of that is to soften the skin, all right? So you want to soften the fur so it's easier to peel the skin off. All right, so the next guy, let's say his job is to take the pig who's hanging upside down. He takes a curved knife and he sticks it right in the private parts, in the back end. And while the pig is, now he's just got his throat slit, he's just gotten boiled, and he's probably dying at this point, you know. But some pigs were still squealing whenever they hit the water and when they got out of the water. So they put the curved knife in the back end of the pig, you know, the end, and they cut all the way down to the throat. Now, The next guys, their job was to take the pig open. They had to rip the pig open. There were two guys on this platform. I should have drew two. And both of them would reach into this pig and just rip it open as quickly as they could. And then they would take another knife and they would grab the end of the intestines, which you know where that is probably, and they would cut that off. And when you cut, if you ever cleaned an animal before, when you cut the end of the intestines off, all the guts come out, okay? And the next thing that hooks it on is the esophagus. So they have to cut that off too. When they do, the guts plop down on the floor right here, okay? Along with all the blood and all the nastiness, okay? I'm going to remove this so you can just tell what's going on here. Now this happens all day long, 12 hours a day. So the guts pile up and they pile up. Now as it gets very close to being too tall for the first platform, somebody comes around with some type of a plow. And what I didn't tell you is that you see this big ramp? This whole thing is hollow. It's a room, okay? There's a door right here. All right, there's our door. So this guy with a lift or something of that effect or a plow would come and shove all this organ meat, everything in it. They did not clean it out. Y'all understand, right? They would shove it to the back of the room, okay? And this went on 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. So by the end of Monday, there's your pile of organ meat, okay? Here's Tuesday, and here's Wednesday. This is not refrigerated, by the way, okay? So here's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all right? So now, the meat in the back here is 6 days old. The organs, the rotten organs. And so when you leave rotten meat out, certain things happen. It attracts flies, roaches, rodents, okay? So one of the big problems was the rats. The rats would come in to eat the organ meat, especially at night when they had shut down. So when you open this to put some fresh meat in, you would see hundreds of rats on the pile of meat, and they would just scatter everywhere. They said in the book that the rat feces was so thick that you could scrape it off with your hand and throw it on the floor, right off the top of the meat, okay? So to fix the problem, what they decided to do is poison the rats. Okay, so we got Mr. Rat, right? Let's draw Mr. Rat. He's a fat rat because he's been eating a lot of meat, right? Okay, we give him a straight tail. All right, Mr. Rat is on the pile of meat, right? And Mr. Rat, whenever he eats on the pile of meat, he makes his mess on the pile of meat. And remember, this is times thousands, you know? So the meat is infested with rat poo. So what they said, we gotta get rid of these rats. This is nasty. So they take poison bread. Okay, let's draw a little piece of bread here. All right. Okay, horrible piece of bread there. They take a piece of bread and they poison it and they throw it on the meat. Well, Mr. Rat goes and, you know, he eats the poisoned bread. Now, what happens to Mr. Rat? Mr. Rat goes, you know, dies, all right? So where does Mr. Rat die? On the meat. And then Monday comes and they pile more meat on top, and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the room is full. It cannot handle any more meat. Everything shuts down, all this. No more piggies died for the next few days, because now, since the room is full, now it's sausage day. So they would take all this meat, all the poison bread, all the rats, all the rat droppings, and they would grind it up and they would make sausage with it. Now it stuck so bad, they actually had to inject it with something they call the pickle, which is formaldehyde, which is what you put in dead people. So people were eating rat meat with poison bread, disgusting organ meat that had never been cleaned out, and formaldehyde. And people were dying from it. And people were getting sick from it. President Roosevelt was president when this happened. And he was reading The Jungle. It was the #1 bestseller in America. So he's reading The Jungle at the Oval Office desk. and he's reading this part of the book while he's eating his lunch. He was eating a sausage po' boy. That's the story. So Roosevelt threw up all over the Resolute desk, and he contacted Congress and demanded that they investigate this. Is this novel telling the truth? Because it's a fiction novel, right? And Congress found out that they were actually telling the truth. They sent investigators to Chicago. This is exactly how America's sausage was being made. So we had some new laws that were passed that I'm going to tell you about in the next video.